And we're back now with the Fox News alert. The State Department issuing a travel warning for Americans going to Europe following Tuesday's terror attacks in Brussels. That city is still on lockdown. Two brothers are believed to have detonated explosive devices in suicide attacks at the airport and the metro station. Now there is an urgent manhunt underway for another suspect in the deadly Brussels attacks. And for that, we want to bring in Naveed Jamali, a former intelligence operative and a senior fellow for the Foreign Policy Research Institute, and Tom Rogan, columnist with the National Review, and Opportunity Lives and a Steamboat Institute fellow. Thank you both for being with us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
So this is just coming in, and this is quite alarming. The president of Turkey, he is saying that he deported one of the suspects back in June, deported him back to Brussels. Belgium took him in, questioned him. They then released him, saying that they did not have enough evidence to keep him. This ended up being one of the suspects that blew himself up at the airport. Naveed, what is your reaction to that?
Well, look, the exact opposite happened here, thankfully, and we were able to stop it. Tyrod Pugh is an American who traveled from Egypt to Turkey, and in this case, the Turks did the exact same thing, but it worked. The FBI arrested him. He was eventually convicted for charges for trying to support ISIS, and you know, it just goes to a couple of things. One, the reliance we have on our foreign partners in this sort of intelligence umbrella. We can't do this alone. We need their help.
Well, and Tom, as I just said at the top of the segment, the State Department is issuing warnings for Americans traveling over to Europe. I mean, this is exactly what ISIS is wanting to happen. They want us to live in fear. They want us to second-guess ourselves when we are boarding a train or a subway or a plane. We want to worry about our family members. They want us to cancel our trips to Europe. Does this mean that they're winning?
I think it does, and I think it's really quite pathetic, actually, and I use that word deliberately, that the administration on one side says, well, pull away from Europe, pull away from some of America's closest allies, obviously the UK and France there, and Belgium, Germany, but at the same time, when you look at the threat posed by ISIS, specifically in Iraq and Syria, and the metastasis and fealty from other terrorist groups, and Boko Haram, Pakistani Taliban, Afghan Taliban, the administration is much more in a position of retrenchment, that they don't want to engage with that threat. So the message that sends, I think, to ISIS is, number one, you will be rewarded by American fear in terms of the aftermath of attacks in Europe. You will damage those economies because of the absence of American tourists, and you can be confident at the same time that the administration will not change course and undertake a more efficient strategy against you.
Well, and now, Naveed, the investigation is underway. They're trying to get any information they can to figure out how this all happened. Really, with these terrorists living in plain sight in Brussels, they captured Salah Abdeslam on Friday. What do you imagine they are asking him at this moment to get more information to help all of us?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the Belgian mistake here was that they were probably surveilling these guys. And when you're, in law enforcement or the intelligence community, you want to watch and you want to roll them up when you have 100% of that network. You don't want to have any squirters coming through. And I think, frankly, what happened with the Belgium, they were watching them and they waited too long. That, coupled with the fact that they made public announcements saying that Salman was cooperating, I think this cell was under the impression that their days were numbered, and they decided to go active. And once you go active, it's much, much more difficult and considerably more dangerous to stop them.
Well, and Tom, we keep hearing from politicians and from a number of experts that in order to move forward and defeat ISIS, we've got to work more closely with our allies around the world. We continue to hear that time and time again, but that, as I just mentioned, the president of Turkey trying to share that information with Brussels, they end up releasing the guy that blows himself up, killing innocent people. How can we do a better job of working together and finding intelligence so that we can stop these attacks from happening?
Well, there's a specific problem with Brussels in the sense it's a place where efficiency goes to die and information goes to die. But look, the way that you do it is that you empower the existing liaison relationships, whether that be from FBI to MI5, the CIA, DGSE in France. And what you do is you say to the officers who are engaging with each other, share information, don't go through the bureaucratic protocols unless it is really top secret, individually caveated information for the nation, and that you push that information sharing. But at the same time, I think the problem you see is that Europe, while Europe is not a good ally to the United States in terms of defense spending on issues like NATO, on the issue of ISIS, there is a realization because of the threat now that they need to do more and would be willing to do more. And the obstacle to this, and this is why I think you see, for example, today, the British government saying more action is needed, implicitly criticizing the Obama administration. The administration doesn't want to back off from that trend because the president's in his final year, that he wants to leave office saying, I drew down, I was patient, and the world sorted itself out. But it gets worse.
Naveed, obviously ISIS is wanting to hit the West. They've made it clear they want to hit Americans specifically. They did that. Whenever something like this happens, we think about it happening right here at home. Should we be concerned right now about that?
Yes, but we should also be reassured that, listen, there's two types of protection we have. One is the physical protection. We see it in the city today with uniformed officers with heavy weapons. That's the physical part. That is the very visual, upfront part. The part that you don't see is really the part that is our safety net here, and that's the intelligence component. Tom touched on this a little bit. I mean, the idea is that when it comes to intelligence, you're doing active intelligence. You have terror threat lists. You have people that are nominated. You're not waiting for someone to come to this country to decide if they're a threat. If we're relying on the TSA to decide if someone is a threat, we've already lost.
Yeah.
And that's, it comes down to active intelligence, and luckily we have one of the best intelligence services in the world.
No, that's right, but certainly some unsettling times. Naveed,
Absolutely.
Tom, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.